Hello, my name is Brandon and I'm your host for the series of tutorials by discoDSP for the synth Corona. And in our previous video, we did a video on the filter section. And in this video, we're going to be going over the filter LFO, which is directly related to the filter section. Now, most of the features of the filter LFO section we've already covered because we've talked about the vibrato, which vibrato is actually another form of LFO for synths. If you go back to our vibrato video, you'll notice all the modes. And when we come down to our filter LFO video, you'll notice that the same modes are here. So the modes stay in the same concept on how they work. And down here we have the voice legato global for each 16th, 64th, and 32nd note. In the first three modes, LFO does not stick to the tempo. But if you use any of the 16th, 64th, and 32nd notes, LFO does stick to the tempo that is selected according to the note type you have selected. Next to that we have the waveform. And if you remember back in our oscillator video, which is the first video that we have of the series, you see there are three oscillators, and each one has its own waveform that you can select. Well, the same thing applies here, except instead of the waveform being the basic sound like it was in the oscillator, the waveform shows how the LFO will affect the filter. But the filter LFO doesn't just affect everything in the filter. If I was to draw an arrow, like now, everything that we do inside of the filter LFO would be attached to this cutoff knob. And the cutoff knob, as we talked about last week, is also the frequency knob, selecting what frequencies are affected by the filter. So by adjusting the filter LFO, we're going to be telling the filter section how it's going to react. Like in the vibrato section that we've already gone over, the filter LFO section also has three knobs, which are the depth, delay, and frequency. And just for a review, I'm going to tell you what those are. For the depth is the amount of filter LFO that is applied. Delay is the holding time until LFO takes effect in milliseconds. And frequency is the LFO frequency in hertz or synced tempo if 16th, 64th, or 32nd note triplets are selected. And now that we've had a quick review, why don't we just go ahead and jump right into what it sounds like. So the first thing I'm going to do is play the original sound that I have selected, which is like in the previous videos, number 33 in our program bank, Dirty Mono Lead JP. So I'm going to play the sound and explain to you what's going on. You can see that the note starts in hard and strong, but a little ways into it there's a little bit of a roll off. Instead of the sound being hard and continuous, an underbelly starts to develop and rises to the top, almost like a bubble rising through water to the surface. So let's listen to that again and see if you know what I'm talking about. There it was, the bubble just popped. If we were to just play with the depth, you probably wouldn't notice too much of a difference. Until you get to the negative side, where you notice there's a little bit more dropout. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit for the next part to explain what's going on. Now when I come over to delay, it's currently set to 0 milliseconds. But if I bring it up just a little bit, I can have it at 6 milliseconds, bring it up halfway, and have it at 100 milliseconds. Or you can even bring it up more for a little bit of a longer delay. With the depth in a positive state, the delay isn't as noticeable. But if I bring it out into the negative state, you can see the change is a lot more dramatic. Now, if I take the depth all the way down to negative 100%, put the delay on 0 milliseconds, and I'm going to come up and change the mode to legato, and let's see how the frequency changes the sound now. With the depth all the way down, the sound doesn't play out to its fullest. If we bring the depth all the way past and all the way to 100%, then you can really hear the sound to its fullest. And it never fades away. So if you're really into dubstep, or you'd rather just make your sound a little bit more dynamic, I'd highly suggest tuning your sound a little bit in the filter LFO section.